One of the most popular questions that I get is how do I keep my groceries so low? And if you're like me or literally any other American, it groceries are freaking expensive wherever you go. Like my husband laughs at me every single time I come home from the grocery store and I'll be like, "Do you know how much this was?" And he laughs because he's like, "Yeah, everything's expensive now, Lauren." But I think that the biggest and most important thing to do to keep your groceries low is to learn to cook from scratch. And I know that's not what people want to hear because it can be hard and it can be full of a lot of learning moments and sometimes failures. And no one wants to waste food. And, when we feel like we fail from cooking from scratch, sometimes we get a little bit defeated. But I want to encourage you that those learning moments and those failures are what is going to set you up to be so much more successful in the future. Because the reality is that when you start to learn to cook from scratch, you know when you can substitute things, when you can throw in a random mix in or a leftover in your fridge. And that's where the true budget savings comes from. Yes, you absolutely can save money from making your own tortillas and making your own bread. And that's a fantastic way to start. But when you start to look at that stale bread sitting on your counter that no one ate, and you learn that you can make that into croutons or you can make it into breadcrumbs and truly make that entire loaf of bread be used and not have leftovers just go to waste, that my friend is when you are really starting to be frugal and learning how to make your budget go further. And I know that that can be so overwhelming to start, right? Like a lot of us have families or we have really busy jobs. I have two kids that one just turned 2 and one is 3 months old. And our life is hectic. I work a full-time job. I just went back to work after maternity leave. My husband also works a full-time job. And both of our jobs can be a little unforgiving sometimes. And trying to find that balance of still making nutritious meals and taking care of all of our responsibilities, it can feel overwhelming. And if you're at that point and you're like, I don't even know how to start, I want to encourage you to just start with one recipe, start with learning one skill, because as you learn one skill and you master that, it's going to be very encouraging to start to learn new skills and to really truly put your scratch cooking to test and to make it just second nature. Like I almost rarely use box noodles anymore, and I used to use them all the time, right? I love noodles. Who doesn't like pasta, honestly? And the first time I ever made noodles, it felt like just this like extravagant event. I think I made them for New Year's one time. And it was like a special thing. I was making homemade noodles and it felt like so much work at the time. And it probably was because I hadn't made it ever. I was looking at the recipe a million times. I was really second guessing myself. But I all of a sudden just decided like I'm gonna start to make noodles from scratch every week. I made it every Wednesday for quite a few months in a row. And the more I worked with it, the less I didn't even use the recipe anymore. I learned what the dough should look like. And that's what's really important. And I can make noodles in like 30 minutes now. And it's truly just learning how to work with the ingredients that you have and learn how they go together. And I think the most important thing, and if you have kids, is getting them involved because it's going to make your life easier in the end. I know sometimes having your kids get involved in cooking, it can make it feel like it's going by slower at the time. And sometimes it does, sometimes they might throw an extra cup of flour in a recipe that wasn't supposed to be there. But a lot of times, for me, involving my kids actually really helps my cooking go faster, right? Because I'm not, trying to get them to play with some cars or, bounce them around or something like that, where if you really just encourage them to get involved with your daily life, that's where they're going to take an interest in cooking, and you're going to have just a kid that loves to learn how to cook, appreciates the food that you're making, and with a caveat, like if they're 2 years older, they might not still care. But I find that when my kids, they get involved, at least my toddler, my baby's a little too small, but when my toddler gets involved, like making rice or making noodles, he is so much more likely to actually eat that because he helped make it and he gets excited about that. And that's going to lead to a lot less food waste too, and keeping your budget tighter, right? Because you're not going to have food that goes uneaten and you're going to have to supplement with something else later. A lot of that food is going to is not going to go to waste as much. And I think the last thing to really keep in mind is just keep it simple. When we're cooking from scratch, we're often making just extremely nutritious meals because we're kicking out all of the additives, all of the weird ingredients, and we're really truly giving our family meals that are gonna nourish them. And I think we don't have to worry so much about, is there a vegetable on every single plate? Do I have enough protein? Do I have too many carbs? Because I think when you really are focusing on, meals from scratch, I just, for me, that hasn't been as important for my family. Now, obviously, you can do your own nutrition goals for your family and you know them right. You know what, if they feel good eating lots of vegetables, then go and eat a lot of vegetables. But I do think that maybe we worry a little bit too much about that balance and focusing on simple, made from scratch meals is truly going to just benefit both your wallet and your family's nutrition. And I think we shouldn't worry so much either about repeating some of the meals, because if we're repeating a meal, it probably means that it works for us in a time frame that is good for our family. It doesn't take a long time to make, and our family loves it. And you know what? I think unless someone is getting sick of a meal, just keep it in the rotation. Don't feel bad about making the same meals, because trust me, like 20 years from now, your kids are going to be coming home and asking you to make that awesome lasagna or that great stew or whatever it is that they love, that you love to make. And that's easy to make too, especially on a weeknight, especially if you have kids, because let's just make it as easy as we can on ourselves while still giving our family nutritious meals. So I just want to encourage you to make sure that if you are looking to cut down on your budget and you're looking to make meals from scratch, go ahead and just watch similar videos like this where people are cooking, and maybe try to avoid the channels that are a little bit too technical, unless that's how you learn and that's how you love. But I just really think that sometimes social media makes a lot of this, made from scratch cooking a little bit too intimidating, when I don't think it should be, because our grandmas and their grandmas passed down a lot of this information just by watching each other cook in the kitchen. So go ahead and share an encouraging comment to someone else in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe so that you can get more content like this. And I know that this is something you like. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one.